Welcome into the Locked On Knicks podcast. You're going to get a much happier version of myself and my buddy XJ after a 121-91 victory over the Indiana Pacers. A mixtape night for Jalen Brunson, dominance on the offensive glass for the entire team, and so much more. We get into it now as the Knicks are one game away from the Eastern Conference Finals.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. And I'm going to say it again, second time in 40 seconds. Your New York Knicks are one game away from returning to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time, second time this millennia. I'm not sure. I'm Gavin Schall, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster. He is my buddy XJ, the co-host of the Hot Hand Theory podcast. Both wanted to thank you for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day. It is now available everywhere you can get your podcast. That means on YouTube, you got to subscribe and hit that notifications bell to ensure you never miss one. And then hit the auto download function on your favorite podcast platform of choice to make sure you don't miss us on the go. And then jump ahead and do the same for the Hot Hand Theory so you don't miss XJ talking Knicks on a week-to-week basis. And we wanted to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. No terms apply on the Knicks kicking some butt. I want to use another word there, but we do have sponsors. A 121-91 victory over the Indiana Pacers. Jalen Brunson is back in a big way. A 28-point first half, 22 points in the first 16 minutes of this one. Finishes 44-7-4. The Knicks set the tone early with their offensive rebounding. 7 in the first 7 minutes. Halfway through the second quarter, Isaiah Hartenstein had more offensive rebounds than the Pacers had rebounds as a team. I thought that was a microcosm of the start of this game. Deuce McBride gets the start on Tyrese Halliburton, kicks his butt, and after the Pacers cut it to 12 to start the fourth quarter, the Knicks run away with it. A whole wide world of fun things to talk about. XJ, I'm gonna leave it up to you, though I kind of think we have to start with Jalen Brunson.
Gavin, I just want to say I sat here yesterday in our episode of Locked On Knicks podcast, and I told you I was optimistic. And this is coming from a pessimist. I said all hope was not lost. And apparently, you and I had some of the answers, but the Knicks had all the answers. And it was just overall a masterful performance from the Knicks. A masterful performance from Tom Thibodeau, which was incredible. I can't wait to break it all down. Let's start at Jalen Brunson. As I was kind of suggesting in our last episode, I don't know whether he's injured. We know he's injured. To what extent, or whether he's mostly exhausted. It could be a lot of factors at play. I generally don't like to assume injury is the primary cause of a player's struggles unless it's over like an extended period of time and the sample is larger. I do know that Jalen Brunson is always dangerous no matter what his injury status is, no matter what his fatigue level is. He's always dangerous. He had a bad game. It's unlikely you're going to see Jalen Brunson struggle 2 games in a row. And I do know Jalen Brunson with space is absolutely dangerous and is a menace. And that's really what we saw. We saw Jalen Brunson be able to get to his spots with a little bit more freedom of movement. We saw Jalen Brunson make his shots that he was short on, he was making. Doing really whatever he wanted to do, abusing Andrew Nembhard at times, being able to attack when, amazingly, Deuce McBride was able to screen and get Nesmith off of Jalen Brunson, which is something that we talked about as well. That wasn't happening. That did happen. And when you get Nesmith off of Brunson's body and allow Brunson to attack, situations where he has an advantage, he's able to create an advantage, whether he has a step on Nesmith or whether he's able to kind of spray things out to Deuce McBride, who completely knocked down threes at a huge and high rate. You get a really elite and dangerous Jalen Brunson, and that's really what we saw. And that is a huge story of the game. I mean, there's tons of things that we're going to cover, but that's got to be where you start. Jalen Brunson was Jalen Brunson at an elite level. And when Jalen Brunson's like that, the Knicks win basketball games. So that's what we sasaw.
Yeah, I'm going to say that was a top 5 half I've ever seen him play as a Knick in that first half. I mean, in the conversation for given the stakes, and the way the Knicks just needed to set the tone early in this game. I mean, it was the first time in the entire series they led at halftime. And there haven't been too many games where they came out and held their own in the first quarter. After Indiana got off to a pretty solid start, Jalen Brunson just absolutely dominating an 18-point second quarter, 28-point first half. And I'll use injuries as an excuse. I thought he looked dramatically healthier. The explosion, the decel, the rise on his jump shot, all just looked better to me earlier in this game. And like the combination of that and the fact that Isaiah Hartenstein was setting far better screens, the guard to guard screen game was working really well. And they were setting screens with Deuce over and over again to get Halliburton into the action against Jalen Brunson. And when Halliburton was part of the double team, it just sort of, and look, Halliburton's a guy who like, he's long, he's smart, he's capable of making plays in those situations. But we saw Jalen Brunson in the second half of this season getting that look over and over again. I remember Mike Brown after the Kings game, he said, look, the only guy we trap more this year is Steph Curry. Like he, at a certain point, figured it out, and the Knicks figured out how to play off it. And you saw it late in that Sixers series. You saw it tonight. Like they excel in those situations. It's very possible I blotted out some bad plays out of my mind, but in that first half, when Brunson was doubled, I had them shooting 5 for 5 for 12 points off of him passing the ball. I mean, we can go through some of them. Josh Hart is generally the outlet, but he went a bunch of different directions in this one. I mean, the first one, like hitting Deuce on the right wing, then Deuce rotated over to Josh Hart in the corner. Hart hit it. Knicks had a 4-point lead, like after trailing pretty much the whole first quarter. And then maybe my favorite pass he had of this series so far, doubled and just like a half no look behind the back slip to a rolling Deuce in the shooting pocket for a three. That was exceptional, and it reminded me of the play that should have ended the Sixers series in Game 5, where Deuce got that foul line jumper out of a double team. These over and over again. I mean, the key to me was that it wasn't like Brunson was getting doubled and just ditching the ball. He was super patient. Like he would drag the double out to the corner, and he'd be like, "All right, guys, this is as much as I can lay it up to. 4-on-3." Ton of room, and over again, the Knicks were able to take advantage of it. Hart got another layup out of it. Burks got a 3 out of it off a precious pass in the second half. And then in the fourth quarter, after Indiana opened up on that run to cut it to 12, I mean, we just saw like AM1 mixtape Jalen Brunson. Like I'm not going to get over him making Aaron Naismith literally touch the court to keep himself from falling.
Oh man, I was so excited. I took myself off mute and I took myself off camera. But I honestly, I think everything you said was so on point. I just think, is it as simple, Gavin, as setting better screens, setting hard screens? Because that's really the big difference that we saw. Deuce McBride setting really hard screens, not allowing Naismith to just fight over them and stay connected to Brunson. Isaiah Hartenstein just came with a whole new level of just attention to detail and diligence on both sides of the court and everything that he did. Screens being one of them, not allowing Naismith or whoever was guarding Jalen Brunson to stay attached. And then once you create that advantage, now Brunson can do all of the things that he's so great at, either scoring from the advantage, dragging out, the double team or the hard hedge, as you suggested, Gavin. I think that's the other thing. The Pacers don't want a straight double. They want to hedge and recover. They're scared to death to switch Hallie onto Brunson, and they're desperate to do anything to avoid that happening. And what they ended up doing was just creating all of these amazing advantages for the Knicks. And it really starts from the screen. It's just something that we kind of as a basketball community don't talk about that much. But the quality of screens that we were seeing from the Knicks really are the biggest thing, in my opinion, that opened things up. It's not just the quantity, but it's the quality. They were really getting on the body, getting guys off of Jalen Brunson, and that set up all of these advantages. And Jalen Brunson was just executing at such a high level, his cerebrally and from a standpoint of execution and making shots, that there just was no way to stop the Knicks offense last night.
No, he was in his bag. I mean, the last highlight, the give and go layup off the inbound, where he basically went from one block to the other on an up and under, plus the foul. I forgot the one out of the double where he hit Hart and Hart just touched past it to Precious. That was a thing of beauty. And like, if you're Indiana, like we can maybe talk about it on one of the pods the next 2 days, but I don't really know what the answer is if you're going against this version of Jalen Brunson. Like, you almost just have to outscore the Knicks, because they don't have like as good as Naismith was in Game 3 and 4. And you got to give him credit. Like, he was awesome. Like, I just don't think they have an answer for him. Like a Batum, like an even more so a Kelly Oubre and Miles Turner, a good shot blocker. They don't have that presence at the rim like a Joel Embiid to deter Brunson and make his life difficult. Like, if he's going to play like this, There's just not a lot that Indiana's going to be able to do to stop the Knicks. And to be fair, this has been the trend for the 5 games in the series. This has been the trend generally in the playoffs. The Knicks, the second highest scoring team in the playoffs, even after that Game 4 debacle, behind only Indiana. And you just have a feeling like offense, and maybe I'll come back to eat these words, like one cold shooting night, it doesn't look as good, and you need the tertiary guys like a Deuce, like a Hart, like a Burks to make threes, but it just doesn't feel like offense is going to be the issue for the Knicks in closing out this series.
I think that you're totally on point. The only thing I would say is that the recourse for Indiana is to cheat off of a bad shooter and buy time for the defender to recover back in front of Brunson. And they just weren't able to do that because the Knicks had the floor of space really well. And that's been such a critical point. You and I have just both talked about that extensively. You can't cheat off of anyone when you don't have the kind of 2 to 3 non-shooters or poor shooters on the court. There's no one to cheat off of. And now you're in trouble because you're going to try to hedge and recover. You're recovering to Deuce McBride, who was a 40% 3-point shooter on the season. Good luck with that. Josh Hart has shot the ball at like an insane clip in this postseason. You know, a couple of times he passed up some shots, and I'm like, Josh,
I want to highlight that because that was the only time Indiana stopped them. It's like he had 2 turnovers on plays he passed up threes. Did it again in the third quarter. Again, that was a mistake. Like I think if the Knicks have an adjustment coming this one, Tim's going to say shoot the effing ball, and I don't know what Indiana does then.
Gotta shoot the ball. And once you have those 4 guys on the court, or those 3 guys on the court plus Hartenstein, there's not really any answers. Like you said, if they're going to shoot and make shots, and you have Alec Burks shooting at a ridiculous rate, and I'm sure we'll get to him specifically, but when you have these guys spacing the court, there are no answers. And so the only answers that are possible is hope that the Knicks go back to a Precious Achiuwa at the 4 lineup with next to Josh Hart. Otherwise, good luck stopping this offense. It's not going to work.
We saw second quarter, they started aggressively cheating off of Precious. And there was a play where Jalen was doubled, and he said, you know what? I'm kind of feeling it right now. Crossover, drew a foul on a 3 anyways. So like, again, good luck to Indiana. Like, as long as Jalen is healthy and playing like this, they're going to have their issues. Certainly more they can do offensively. Defensively, I think they can be better. I think it's going to be tough to do much more against this version of the Knicks, but there were a whole lot of other reasons the Knicks won this game. Started on defense and on the offensive glass. We're going to talk about it all next on Locked On Knicks. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. We all carry different stressors, big and small. When we keep them bottled up, it can start to affect us negatively. Therapy is a safe place to get things off your chest and to figure out how to work through whatever is weighing you down. I've done therapy on and off for years, and it just helps you be a little bit more honest with yourself about your issues and gives you a place to vent so you're not holding in emotions, and that's when you really run into issues. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, so the place we have to go next is the rebounding battle. 53-29 in the Knicks' favor. The Knicks, XJ, finished this game taking 29 more shots than the Indiana Pacers did. They shot better from the field, far worse from 3, far worse from the, or not far worse, but 1% better from the foul line, but essentially equal from the foul line. And yet they win this game by 30 points because of that statistic. How did they make it happen?
Well, the number one reason is Isaiah Hartenstein. Isaiah Hartenstein could not be boxed out by multiple Pacers. There were multiple times during the course of the game when you see, the guy who's playing the guy in the corner, maybe Ben Shepherd and Miles Turner, both go to Isaiah Hartenstein, trying desperately to scratch and claw and keep him off the boards. And they couldn't box him out with 2 guys. He was a complete animal. And he just came with the level of focus and intensity. And I think something that's so interesting is that we also talked about this at some point. We talked about how Hartenstein needs to channel his Mitchell Robinson, his inner Mitch, and get the offensive rebounds by himself. It can't be a team and collective effort every time because that hurts the Knicks in transition. So Hartenstein really has to take it upon himself to not be able to be boxed out. And when he's focused like that, when he's coming back with this level of effort and intensity, you can't. He does a Mitchell Robinson impersonation. He does it extremely well. Can't keep him off the boards. He's the number one reason for the offensive rebounds. It was at a point where it was like, I'm not going to say I felt sorry for Indiana, but I kind of felt sorry for Indiana because I'm just like, this guy is just completely bullying you guys down low, and there's nothing anyone can do. Obviously, I think it's important that it was a collective effort. A lot of guys on the Knicks can get offensive and defensive rebounds, but I think it's so essential that Isaiah Hartenstein be able to do it on his own and not with the use or the need for a Precious Achiuwa next to him, and have Hart, Precious, and Hartenstein all going for rebounds offensively and defensively, because it allows the Knicks to maintain floor balance in transition. It allows the Knicks to get extra possessions without having to commit extra resources to the boards, and it allows them to end possessions defensively. Even if the Pacers shoot pretty well, the Knicks can reliably know that they're going to end those possessions on one shot. And we know how inefficient that can make your offense if you're only getting one shot. To shoot 29 more field goal attempts, it's almost impossible to lose a game that way. If the Knicks are going to play like that, then yeah, Indiana has no hope.
Yeah, so there was a sequence to start the second half where Miles Turner hit 3 threes. Indiana was able to cut the 15-point lead to, or whatever the lead was. They got it down to 61 to 70 after 3 straight Turner threes. And that was like, there's one demerit on Hartenstein the entire night, was that he didn't respect Miles Turner as a shooter. And Indiana at that point in the game was 9 for 14 from 3, 12 for 12 from the line, and they were still down because the Knicks were just wrecking them on the glass. And it started early for Hartenstein. Like we opened yesterday's show talking about this, like could he unlock that inner beast again? And it was just from the get-go tonight. Like he was out to the kill, whether it was on screens, at the rim defensively, a putback dunk earlier in this game, like rotating over to just swat Pascal Siakam to just jab it back into his face. Like his passing was on point. Like I mentioned, that touch pass to Jalen on the little give and go. And then even before that, like drawing a foul on an offensive rebound that led to a Jalen and one. Like as much as like when Indiana had like their only other run of the second half and cut it to 12 at the beginning of the fourth quarter, as much as that was a Jalen Brunson run, it was an Isaiah Hartenstein run, just at timely points, creating extra opportunities, smart passes off of them, and just figuring out ways to ensure that the Knicks were not about to give up this lead. The big adjustment, though, that keyed success for the New York Knicks in terms of personnel was obviously making the switch, as we suggested, putting Deuce McBride in the starting lineup. And I thought, it was him, Hartenstein, and Brunson, like all equally important to the Knicks' efforts in the start of this game. And it was on both ends of the floor for Deuce, who like had not really had a signature game this series after playing well above expectation against the Sixers. Finishes this one 40 minutes, 17 points, 4 assists, 3 threes, 7 of 15 from the field, and just totally got into Tyrese Halliburton and disrupted him. Halliburton only took 9 shots in 34 minutes. And that's kind of the ball game if you're Indiana. Like we saw it in game 1. They just cannot win if he's not aggressive, if he's not a force as a scorer, and they're playing off of that. And I'm going to steal a term from your coworker, DJ, like over and over again, an area the Knicks just got decimated last game. They won the closeout, and Deuce McBride specifically won the closeout, like deterring and spooking Tyrese Halliburton over and over again from firing jumpers. He looked hesitant. He looked scared. And I think that slowed the gears in this Indiana offense that has just kept the Knicks in the blender the last 2 games.
100%. I think Deuce McBride's defense on Halliburton, probably a top 5 reason for the Knicks domination. And there are a lot of reasons, obviously. There's a lot of credit to go around, but I think that was completely necessary. Like you said, head of the snake, Tyrese Halliburton, you slow him down, you slow the entire Pacers offense down. And Deuce McBride was excellent. Closing out, being able to close out and not get blown by. I think that the really interesting thing is that Halliburton is so much of a better matchup for Deuce McBride than somebody like TJ McConnell. McConnell's a little awkward and wants to get to weird spots. He wants to get to the mid-range. Guys like Deuce, they're not used to guarding guards who want to get to the mid-range, just want to get to that little pull-up. Either you want to get all the way to the rim or you want to shoot a 3. And that's what Tyrese Halliburton wants to do. He wants to get all the way to the rim if you overplay him, or make a pass out, obviously spray out for one of his teammates to hit a 3, or he wants to hit a step back 3. And Deuce McBride was covering him like a blanket all over that, could close out and still stay in front of Halliburton. So there was no easy driving lanes. That defense on Halliburton was really the game from a defensive standpoint. and Deuce McBride just came to play ball. And it was just amazing on both ends of the court. 40 minutes for Deuce McBride, a plus 26 in those 40 minutes, 17 points, 3 of 7 shooting from 3, and just defensively was a complete animal. Huge adjustment from Tibbs, and I love to see it.
I think it's funny because Halliburton is obviously someone who has like proven every pre-draft doubter wrong. But the biggest concern on him was kind of the awkward gather and release on his jumper, which was sort of the same thing that made Emmanuel quickly drop a little bit. And this is the like Deuce McBride is like one of the few defenders in the league who can really expose that, because like think about what Brunson does to Nembhard, where he just gets to a spot in the mid-range and can just shoot over him. And those guys are the same height. Halliburton is maybe 3-4 inches taller than Deuce, but he has no mid-range game at all. And he has no like kind of quick gather release option, which I guess essentially like is necessary to have a mid-range game. And because of that, like he can't expose the height advantage. And you just have a player in Deuce who's stronger, who's just as quick, who's smart enough to not fall for all those little hesitations that he normally tortures guys with. And it's like, he's like I this isn't something I thought of like at any point during the series. I wasn't suggesting it, but it was just a brilliant tactical move by Tom Thibodeau. And it was on both ends of the floor, right? Because we saw everything it opened in that screen game, as we mentioned. And I thought Deuce's offense, like, especially because like you might look at the score and say, like, if you didn't watch the game last night for whatever reason, all right, this was like the Knicks just did to Indiana what Indiana did to the Knicks. And like, yeah, sort of, but like only over the last 3.5 quarters. Like Indiana came out and it looked like I was ready for another dogfight. I was ready to come on here drenched in sweat, maybe a little bit of my own vomit on my shirt. And instead the Knicks ran away with it. But like when it was close, it was Deuce early in this game, like making a big three, like a great cut off a Dante drive to get a little push shot, transition going right at Tyrese Halliburton, blowing by him for a layup. Like it was just these small moments that buoyed the Knicks and got them stabilized enough to go on that run that changed the game.
Oh, so many moments. I mean, that finish over Obi Toppin in transition with the left hand as he turned his back to him and finished it off the glass. I forgot that was ridiculous. I'm like, I didn't even know you had that in you, Deuce. So many huge moments on both ends of the court, and which is so essential. I think you're just totally right. And the thing about Halliburton is, I will say, he has a mid-range game, but not off the dribble. So it's kind of strange. If you leave Halliburton wide open from the mid-range, he's lethal. I'm not sure. I think he shot close to 50% from the mid-range this year on very few attempts, though. He's not going to drive to the mid-range and then pull up as you're kind of backing away from him. And you can stay attached, and that's a big difference. He doesn't have that kind of shake to his game, like you mentioned, like a Jalen Brunson, who it's like you can't really stay connected with him. And if you do, he'll just go at you again, and then you won't be able to do it 2 times in a row. With Halliburton, with a guy like Deuce McBride who can move his feet in that way, he can stay attached to him. He can stay and contest those mid-range shots. Halliburton's not going to feel comfortable taking them. It's going to reset the possession, and the Pacers don't have much if they can't score early in the shot clock. The Pacers are a very fast-paced team. That doesn't mean that they like to always run in transition, although they do. It means that they want to shoot shots early in the shot clock. They want to get to their first action. They want to get paint, a paint touch, whether that's Halliburton driving the ball or somebody else driving the ball typically, and they want to spray out for 3 or get a good shot close to the basket. They don't want to spend time kind of starting over, resetting, running screens. That's not their style of offense. So if you can stop them early, if you can stop them with, let's say 10 seconds left on the shot clock, their chances and their efficiency of scoring in the half court plummets dramatically. And Deuce McBride was really able to do that, buy time, make other guys try to beat them. Halliburton didn't have an opportunity to. And from the Pacers end, if you're going to limit them in transition and you're going to limit Halliburton's ability to be the one who's kind of the head of the snake dictating things, there's not much that they're going to be able to do on that end either.
All right, so we'll talk more about the Knicks' defensive effort, and then we want to highlight some individual bench heroes. Precious Achiuwa, Alec Burks, take a bow. Big time game, big time Knicks win. We'll keep talking about it next on Locked On Knicks. But first, if you want to get tickets to Game 6 in Indiana, or God, basketball gods forbid, tickets for Game 7 in New York, there's only one place to go, and that is our friends over at Game Time, the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. You can see the view from your seat on your phone before you buy. I got tickets to what ended up being Jalen Brunson's virtuoso 9 for 9 from 3 performance in Phoenix earlier this year. And I loved that these were tickets I normally wouldn't have bought, but I saw the view and I was like, you know what? That's actually pretty good. I'm going to do it. Plus, this separates them from other apps. They offer all-in pricing, which shows you your total cost up front. So you don't have those annoying fees at the end. And you can buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. There's so many ways to save money on tickets, no matter when you buy. Zone deals where you pick the section and Game Time picks the seats for big savings. They also have exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on every sport you can imagine: concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage. We love our fans, and we're committed to ensuring you have an outstanding experience when you buy from Game Time. Our team is proud to offer the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry, so you can rest assured we've got your back. Buy with confidence, knowing your purchase is covered with Game Time ticket coverage. Game Time ticket coverage include lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, 24-hour return guarantee, job loss assurance, on-time ticket delivery. Game Time, they're the best. All right, we are going to continue marinating. That is the word I want to use right now. Marinating in this dominant Knicks victory. To quote Jalen Brunson, it's a long effing series, and it truly is. Because the Knicks head back to Indiana looking like a completely different team with a chance to close out and presumably set up a blockbuster matchup with the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. We got a little bit more good news tonight. OG Anunoby returning to basketball activities, or at least on-court activities. Who knows if that just means shooting around from a chair, but it is inspiring. And the way tonight went, I am going to take that as a great thing. But they didn't need him tonight, and that was because of the brilliance of all the guys we mentioned: Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, had one of the better 4 for 14, 0 for 6 games from 3, 5 foul performances you will ever see. Alec Burks, 18 points in 23 minutes. Precious Achiuwa, 4 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, plus 15 in his 23 minutes. XJ, I'm throwing 4 guys at you. Who do you want to start with?
You know what? I'm going to go off. I mean, it's on the board, but probably someone is unlikely you would think that I'd start with Dante DiVincenzo. Dante DiVincenzo will go largely unheralded in this game because he didn't hit shots, 0 of 6 from 3. I thought his energy was incredible. You made this point, Gavin, yesterday when we were talking about how none of this matters if the Knicks don't come out with the right energy. And they set the tone energy-wise. Obviously, Isaiah Hartenstein that we talked about a bunch, Deuce McBride, Jalen Brunson. Dante DiVincenzo was right there with him. His energy was incredible. Defensively, he was getting after it. You know, that one moment he had that huge block on Siakam where he came out of nowhere from the weak side. He was getting into it with Miles Turner. No pushover, no back down, no relent. He was just full force. No one's backing us down. We don't care. We're not tired. Forget about fatigue. We're going full force. And I think that stuff matters. Obviously I'm known as like a data guy, and I'm definitely a data guy, but I think that all of these other factors are relevant and things that we need to incorporate into our analysis. And they absolutely were. We saw so much intangible impact from Dante DiVincenzo. The other thing I want to mention, we talked about their rebounding. You know who was second on the Knicks in offensive rebounds? Not Josh Hart, not Precious Achiuwa. Dante DiVincenzo, second on the Knicks in offensive rebounding, 7 rebounds total, third on the team in overall rebounds. DiVincenzo's energy was all over the place, and I loved it. So I wanted to give him a shout out. Obviously, all guys are deserving, but I just think that DiVincenzo, if you look at his line, you're just like, did he have a good game? And you watch the game, and you're like, he had a great game from that standpoint. So I loved it.
Maybe this is the high school sports broadcaster in me, but whenever I see Dante DiVincenzo, I always think back, like, this is the man with the confidence of just being, at least in recent history, Delawareans, if I'm getting this wrong, but like the best player in the history of his state. And you can just imagine in high school, like he was the dude in a way that like no one's ever been the dude. I think his school, we had a reporter on who covered his high school on over the summer. I think he said they went something like 40 years without like a state championship before Dante got there, and then won 2 in a row his junior and senior year. Like he just has reps as being the man. And I think that carried over when he dropped 31 in the national championship game. I think it carried over like when he was good in the initial portions of that Bucks title run. I think it carries over now where like he is he just sees himself as someone who, if not the best player on the court, like can be one of the guys, and is just completely unafraid. And I think with Josh Hart, who, like, I don't know, maybe got like the fear lobotomized out of him when he was a kid or something, and Jalen Brunson, who's like a little bit of a psychopath. Like if you watch Jalen Brunson like do like the little claps for himself sometimes, like you're like, all right, this is a guy who could be wearing human skin, but like I love it. Like he's on our side. Like it's amazing. And like Dante is like a little bit saner than the two of them, but he's also a competitive freak. Like you saw the Italian rage come out a little bit, like when he was yelling at Turner. Like it could have been a moment from the legend, the unit on the Jersey Shore. I'm talking about a lot of non-basketball things, but I'm with you. Like I'm kind of a data guy myself. Like I thought it was all that stuff from him tonight. Getting back to basketball, like the event creation was great. 3 steals, that 1 block, like that has been a consistent theme. Like him getting, like, especially like starting with the latter portions of the Sixers series, game 2 against the Sixers, and for most of the series against Indiana, like him flying in and blocking bigs, like you're almost getting one of those a game, like over and over again. Like he picked Aaron Nesmith's pocket at one point on a drive, pushed the ball up the court, got it to Josh Hart for a layup, like over and over again in transition. Like he was the guy sprinting the floor. He was the connector. If he didn't get the assist, he got the hockey assist. And like his ability to beat closeouts, like Isaiah Hartenstein repeatedly got offensive rebounds, kicked it out to Dante for 3. Like the Indiana spooked after game 3. Like they're rushing out at him. He was just getting by and either getting like an easy assist to Precious or getting a situation where he got to the rim. Like one of those offensive rebounds was him bursting into the lane, missing the cleanup, and then Dante coming back and fixing it himself. Like a totally great, energetic performance. I thought he was great. All right, let's keep checking off names. Who's the next guy you want to talk about on that list?
Next guy we got to talk about is Alec Burks. Alec Burks. What can we say about Alec Burks? He's now 9 of his last 18 from 3. Suddenly, Alec Burks is a different human being. Literally a hyper efficient shooter and play finisher. He's just been monumental. I actually tweeted this out. Over his last 3 games, in 21, 23, and 23 minutes, he's had 14 points on 88% true shooting, 20 points on 67% true shooting, and now this most recent game, 18 points on 76% true shooting. And to go with, I don't know, 0 turnovers. For those who don't speak nerd, I don't blame you, but that is inhuman production. Like that is completely absurd production off the bench. Alec Burks was incredible in this game. Every big shot that he needed to take, the corner 3 that Alec Burks hit late in the game to stop an Indiana Pacer run, I thought was one of the biggest shots of the entire game. He hit a huge corner 3. I think it was after a 9-0 run in the 4th quarter from the Pacers, or a 9-1 run, whichever one it was. It seemed like things were getting a little scary. You know, the Pacers were scoring a couple and ones and a 3-point shot. And I was thinking, like, guys, the only way the Pacers can come back into this game is by hitting threes or getting 3 points at a time. They're not coming back in this game 2 points at a time, and we just gave them 3 points 3 possessions in a row. Alec Burks coolly, coldly, calmly hits a corner 3 to make it a much more comfortable game, and the momentum and the little run that they were going on. And the Knicks never looked back from there, really. I just thought Alec Burks hit every huge shot. I didn't see this coming. I'd be shocked if anyone did, but Alec Burks was just completely incredible.
Yeah, and look, he's like basically giving you what the best case scenario they were going to get from Bojan Bogdanovic was, which is massive for someone that, like, barring like even mediocre health, like was never going to get into a playoff game, and like we thought was totally unplayable. And like I was calling for him to play this series. I wasn't even confident that. I was like, all right, maybe it is just better for Josh Hart to like die on the court than to put Alec Burks out there and just watch the Knicks get toasted in those minutes. Like he has been solid enough defensively, and he has been scalding on offense. Like who knows if it keeps up? Like it's probably too much to count on. But look, he was making shots all season long with Detroit. Beyond Tom Thibodeau's irrational love for the guy, like that's why the Knicks insisted that he was in that deal, and the Pistons were happy to give him up. And you know what? Like what a throw-in! Like he ultimately, like him being in that trade might ultimately be the difference between the Knicks going home in round 2 and having a shot to take on the Boston Celtics in round 3. All right, let's wrap up. One more person, Josh Hart, Precious Achiuwa. I'm gonna let you pick. Who do you want to finish up with?
Oh man, what a toss up.
Tough. I'll talk about whoever you don't. So just
okay, that sounds great. I'm gonna go with Precious Achiuwa. He had really, really good minutes, especially without Josh Hart on the court, or when he was at the 5. And this is exactly what we talked about. Precious being a second sort of non-shooter is viable, but the third guy, that you can give a huge cushion to is not necessarily. And so I thought Tibbs's utilization and deployment of Precious Achiuwa was incredible. Basically, there were very few times when Precious was kind of the third non-shooter on the court. Either he was playing at the 4 next to Hartenstein, and Hart was off the court, and Alec Burks, incredible floor spacer, obviously was on the court, or Precious was at the 5, and he excelled in both of those roles. I think early in the fourth quarter, we saw some minutes when the 3 kind of non-shooters were on the court together, and it wasn't working out, and Tibbs immediately pulled them, and I thought it was such a great decision. So the decision-making was perfect. Precious was awesome. He was awesome defensively, coming up with a huge block. His rebounding was great. His defense on the perimeter against guys, the Pacers going 5 out, being able to shoot. His defense was essential in a role that you would imagine he would, really thrive at, and he did. So overall, I really liked the game from Precious Achiuwa. I loved his deployment, and I thought he played really well. So hugely important to the win overall.
Yeah, he was exceptional, and like it felt like a different human being tonight. Like he was just so lifeless in game 4, and honestly, like the outside of game 6 against Philly, like pretty much all the minutes he's gotten this postseason, like he just didn't look like the version we got in the regular season during that long stretch where Hartenstein was dealing with the Achilles, and sometimes even when Hartenstein was out, and like he was your starting 5. And like he just like carried, like even against Indiana, like the one game the Knicks won this year, he had 15 rebounds, he had 6 offensive rebounds, he had a rebound every single time they were in trouble. And like we have just not seen that in this series. And from the second he got in this one, like Miles Turner tried to post him up, he stripped him, like tracking Obi Toppin off the ball to get an interception, diving into the lane, triple teamed, hitting Alec Burks for a corner 3. Helped D again to get a swat that ultimately led to Dante DiVincenzo getting a transition dunk off what was a brilliant outlet pass from Jalen Brunson. Another play where like he initially deterred Miles Turner and then stuck with Andrew Nembhard on a switch, followed him to the rim and blocked his shot. Like this is the Precious Achiuwa we thought could be super useful for the Knicks in the series. For whatever reason, he hadn't been able to bring that. He brought it tonight. Like I don't know if like all the Knicks went to Germany between game 4 and game 5. Like whatever happened, they all look refreshed. Maybe it was Mike's special stuff. Like I'm not sure, but they just look fresh. They look great. And no one more so than Josh Hart. Like a really tough start to this game for him. We mentioned like passing up like 2 threes on both of them, committing turnovers. And then like almost just to be like spiteful to everyone at home who was groaning at those 2 plays. Like he hits like one off the dribble with the defender right in his face. And like the guy's an enigma as a shooter. And again, like just bringing that pace in transition that you like to see. And like, I think we always talk about like his energy and like just him, like his ability to like flip the court with how fast he is. Like, I'm not sure if we focus enough on just how special of a finisher he is. Again, for someone who like is a strong jumper, but not like a particularly acrobatic jumper, like some of the shots he makes are just crazy. Like had a double pump off the backboard on Ben Shepherd at one point, and then like capping the game off with that play, like where he raced in to somehow get his own 3 on what wasn't a long rebound. Like he got the rebound at the rim. I thought that was a microcosm of the night for the Knicks, and like a microcosm of the Knicks being back to like this team that is just going to bully you. Like I went on another pod before we recorded this, XJ, and I like the guy was asking me, a Pete Bukowski, friend of the show, like all right, just like what is so special about these Knicks? Like how are they always finding this extra effort? And I compared them to like, for anyone who's played pickup basketball before, when you like go to a park and you just play against the team and you're like, guys, you're taking this way too seriously. Like this is pickup. Like I'm hitting my late 20s here. Like I don't have the verve I once did. Like you are just being annoying with the effort you're playing with, the physicality, like going for every single rebound, treating this like it's life or death. In the NBA, everyone's supposed to play that way, and the Knicks take it to that next level where other teams are just put off by how hard they're playing. And that starts with Josh Hart. He brought that tonight, and the Knicks were able to roll because of it.
It's so funny that you just mentioned that analogy. I literally said the same thing to my fiance about the Josh Hart shot. The Josh Hart missed 3 where he tracks down his own rebound, and you could see he knew it was off. He kind of, whatever he did with his release, he knew it was off. He's like, no, I'm going to go get this. And he gets the rebound, goes back up. And I said to my fiance, I said, that's just like when you play pickup and there's just a guy who's like playing way too hard. He's not really skilled. Not to say Josh Hart's extremely skilled, but in the pickup analogy, it's like he's not really skilled, but he's just like playing just too hard. And you're like, can you chill out?
Let's say for what it is. Like, it's someone who has a screw loose generally. And like,
absolutely.
But it works. But it works.
Yeah. And you just never want to play against those guys. And the Indiana Pacers do not want to play against these guys. When the Knicks are like this, they're bullying anyone. They're definitely bullying the Pacers. And Josh Hart is the king of what we're talking about. And he does it when he has that tone and that energy, and the rest of the team follows suit. I'm not sure that this Pacers team has a chance against the Knicks. So definitely Josh Hart is the kingpin of that. And it was really awesome to see.
Yeah. And look, game 6 is undoubtedly going to be difficult in Indiana. I think the best news for the Knicks is they get 3 days off before this game, and like they'll have time to play with this type of effort again. Like you just know the way this playoffs has gone, like it is going to be a nail biter. But you know what? When that happens, hopefully the Knicks win. XJ and I will have you covered right here on Locked On Knicks. Until next time, we'll talk to you soon.